Hey my friends, welcome back to a new video. Today I have a special message for anyone who came across this. I'm sure that you're meant to see it today. So firstly, I want to remind you that everything is going to be okay. At whatever phase of your life you are at any stage of your life you may find yourself right now, know that what's hard will pass, and what it is teaching you will be discovered, and soon you will be able to get these pieces together and the story will be more complete, and suddenly that story that is kind of being written right now will turn into a breakthrough, and suddenly you will get to the point where you will say, oh, I'm really happy that I needed to suffer back then because it awakened me to a new degree of understanding my worth, of understanding why I was placed to this interesting planet. And because of that, I'm also sharing today with you the painting that I've shared with you yesterday, but it's so in context with what we'll be talking today about. It's called I See You, and you will see it's made out of fragments of different color pigments. And the story is interesting, but I have another story that I wrote down yesterday. So in Japanese culture, there's an art of repairing broken pottery called kintsugi, where they glue broken pieces back together with gold. It serves as a reminder that the story doesn't end when life breaks you. It actually begins when you learn to put yourself back together. The scars of your struggles become the most authentic qualities of your soul, and what you learn during the process becomes your greatest strength. But why gold? Because gold represents the highest potential of metal. It is its most perfect form. In healing, gold is represented as love. The moral is that scars are not fully healed until they are unconditionally loved and embraced. So I wanted to share this with you because so many of us have been broken by different experiences. Sometimes someone said something very harsh to you and it broken you. Sometimes you've been through accidents and different events that really shattered you. And for a certain period of time, you've been defined by that. You've been defined not as whole, not as complete anymore, like you were as a little kid. You've started to define yourself by little pieces that you're still aware. Like, when something shatters you, you can't be defined by all the pieces that fallen apart. You stay defined by just little things that you're still aware of yourself, like maybe sadness, maybe being limited, maybe being unskilled, maybe not being smart. Those are the pieces of yourself that you've remembered of who you are. And at some point you recognize there's a sense within you that says, I think I'm more than what I believe about myself. And this is where the space between one piece and another starts calling you to glue them together. It's the goldness of your soul that starts calling you, hey, it's time for you to put these different pieces of yourself back together. So what starts happening, you start recognizing, well, even though I may be sad and I may be struggling right now and I may be depressed, I also remember that once upon a time I was happy. And once upon a time I was enjoying spending time in nature. And once upon a time I was really excited about painting or about music. And that's where you start remembering other fragments of yourself that are also part of you, but you've been shattered, so you've only remembered what was the most painful because you didn't want to be hurt once again. That's the only reason why you've remembered most of the pain. But this gap, as I mentioned, between these different pieces, you see, you are not shattered completely. Parts of yourself were just kinda separated on different places. And one reason for that was that you kinda needed to go through it. Not because of pain, but also, yes, because of pain. Because pain can become a great motivation for putting these pieces back together. Pain may actually transform itself into a process if you choose to. When you recognize you're saying, I shouldn't experience that, I shouldn't go through it, and you actually say to yourself, I needed to go through this. Actually, the way I was living before was not sustainable for me. I was not really happy. I was not really joyful about that. So at some point, I guess I needed to shatter, because what I'm going through right now is a process of kinda discovering these different aspects of myself once again. This process is really turning into a new story, a new chapter in the book of life. And this new chapter is called transition, or you could call it transformation. Now you're starting something new. You're remembering that in different times you've experienced all kinds of different sensations, which means you have a capacity to be happy, you have a capacity to be joyful, you have a capacity to be passionate and loving about something. So you don't stay defined just by this little piece of sadness or this little piece of anger, or this little piece of constantly being hurt. You start recognizing there's so much more of yourself that needs to come back together. So you start remembering these different moments, and what these memories make you do is that they kind of inspire you to focus on possibility to be happy again, or possibility to be creative again, or possibility to start that new project again. Because when you start doing something that in the past brought a certain positive experience in your life, what starts happening, you start slowly gluing that piece back to yourself. You see, you're not really experiencing your life from that little piece of yourself. You're experiencing your life from a state of awareness. But then you focus on the moment you've been hurt and you get defined by that little moment. But as soon as you remember that you're not really that little piece of yourself, you're this awareness observing that you've been hurt, you've been broken, but more than being this little piece, you're the whole canvas on which these pieces come back together. So this approach can help you to recognize that even though, yes, it may be painful, it's not everything that you've come here to experience. So just the fact that you've been through something positive in the past and that you have certain aspirations and you have certain goals that may change your life completely is a reminder for you that there are other pieces of yourself kind of calling you to bring them back into your life, bring them back into your awareness, and kind of bring them back into your identity, that you're also joy and you're also passion and you're also loving being and you're also very curious and you love an adventure. There's a part of you that loves an adventure. Think about how often you feel a desire to experience more adventure, to go on a trip and travel and explore new places. Think about how often you experience this gut feeling that you need more playfulness in your life. Maybe your body is calling you to start dancing or to start singing or to join a certain group of certain type of movement or exercises or maybe meditations. Those are different pieces of yourself that are calling you back to you, so you would glue them together with love, right? This is called self-love, when you start gluing these pieces back to yourself and you start embracing that. Once upon a time, as a little kid, I was drawing most of the time. I was very creative. And then certain events happened in my life and I've stopped doing that. I thought that I need to prove myself in different disciplines and different things until new events happened in my life that helped me to remember that by nature I'm a very creative person, very creative soul. And it only brought me deeper into this calling. I need to start painting. And once I've started painting, I kind of brought this creative piece, this piece of myself that is a creative person that wants to express himself back to myself. And once I've embraced it and started sharing this with the world, I kind of became more complete, more whole. And there's still many pieces that I'm pulling back to myself. And sure, there are certain pieces of ourselves that we need to leave behind. They are not serving us anymore. But the point is that you recognize every time you experience a certain desire, a certain need, a certain kind of sense of a calling that you should do something that may positively impact your life or that may teach you something. It's a certain piece of yourself that is calling you from a certain depth of your soul. It's a part of you that you've forgotten about yourself because of certain pain, because something happened to you. And it's only calling you, so you would start doing it once again. So you would remember that there is a capacity for joy within your heart. There is a capacity for that playfulness, for that wonder and awe that once you've experienced. There's still capacity within you for all of that. And you have these deep urges within you because these pieces are calling you to start doing it once again. And when you embrace it, you truly start gluing these pieces onto yourself once again. And it is only leading you deeper into wholeness. You start to feel more complete again within your body. You start to recognize you're not so insecure anymore. Now you like to show up your scars. Now you like to show up your vulnerability because truly you've been through so much and it's exactly what made you who you are today. Like this pottery that was, if it was shattered, it becomes unique because of its scars, right? It gets a whole another value. Like, it's not really knowledge that makes you valuable. It's the applied knowledge after you've been hurt that creates new experiences in your life that truly challenges the knowledge that you have. Like, what is really practical? What is really working here? And as you challenge your own knowledge, your own information through action, you start to see that you develop a sense of filtering mechanism that kind of starts letting go of all the false information that is not serving you anymore. And you ground the truthful information that helped you to move through your own pain and kind of glue together all the pieces of yourself. So you become really, really practical and grounded as you move through the process of healing and kind of putting yourself back together. And as this process is happening, you're becoming very, very wise within you. You don't fall just for certain interesting things anymore. You are not naive anymore. You're not so cynical anymore. You just become more truthful. And that's what many people are afraid of. Many people are afraid of people who are standing in their power. And to stand in your power doesn't mean that now you're suddenly all strong and I don't know, powerful. To stand in your power means that you're not afraid of showing your scars. That is the greatest power. You're not afraid of sharing your vulnerability. You're not afraid of being laughed at because you've been through so much that there's truly nothing that can shatter you once again. You see, what shattered you also builded you. And once you're built out of pain that was turned into a process of getting all these pieces back together, pain is not your enemy anymore. And it turns into a great strength. Why? Because when someone wants to kind of laugh at you because they want you to experience the pain of their laughter, it just has no effect anymore. You've been through that. You've over that. So what happens, the pain they wanted you to experience just kind of bounced back onto themselves and it shattered them. So those who were trying to laugh at you started laughing at themselves, and it caused them to be hurt. So they've kind of shattered themselves then. And eventually it just became a new process for them, what you've been through. That is the power of getting yourself back together. Becoming a project, or maybe even a product of your own process of putting yourself back together. And this project is really called life. This is life. So you need to understand that you're not being left behind. You're not missing out on anything. If you feel that you're being left behind, it's because you're most probably on a wrong path, on a path that you see somebody walking in front of you. It's not your path, it's someone else's path. That's why you feel you're being left behind. When you're walking your own path, you're the only one on it, so you're not being left behind, you're paving it, right? And it takes time, and it's a process. And it means that sometimes you will feel lost. And it means that sometimes you will not know which is the right direction, so you will choose the wrong one, and you will need to go through the dark forest and face with the demons. And you will get scared and you will want to go back and to not experience that, but you can't go back. So eventually you will learn whatever path you choose, eventually it will take you to the same destination because it's your destiny, right? That's why it's called destiny. Destination is called destiny, isn't it? It's because whatever path you choose, eventually it will take you to the same destination. It's just you will go through different experiences. As long as you have this deep sense that these different pieces of yourself are calling you, like you need to do something, you need to start this, you need to call that person, you need to have this experience. If you feel deeply called to start something new, it's because you should start something new. Sometimes people jump from one thing to another because there's so many fragments of themselves all around that they just want to put everything back together immediately, but it doesn't work. Like, it takes time, so eventually you will learn that one thing takes this amount of time and another thing takes this amount of time, and eventually you will become better at it. And eventually you will see that the healing truly happens through action, through doing what you felt called to do. This is the greatest form of healing. But the challenge is that every time you feel you want to do something, like every time you experience a piece of yourself somewhere calling you, like start painting, in the gap between you right here and gluing this piece back together, there's fear, like what if it will not work out, what if it will not fit in, what if I will not succeed, what people will say, and so on. So don't allow this fear to misguide you. This is more like a voice of getting used to be defined by this little piece, so you don't want to expand yourself. You know, when you glue another piece to this little piece that you may be defined by right now, you will expand yourself, and you're afraid of expansion because it brings with it responsibility and change. It brings change, and we're afraid of change. So that's why I feel fear, like what if it will not work out? But the only way you will truly know is to try. So don't be afraid to try. And when you try, you will notice that trying is also not enough. You need to stick to it. So don't be afraid to sticking to it until it teaches you what you need to know. And the lesson usually is more of yourself. You learn to know more of yourself. You learn to know how much more you're capable of, how much more skillful you can become. And through expanding skills and knowledge and sense of connection, you really become more intelligent. So when you're expanding yourself, you're also expanding your own intelligence. And isn't that why we've come here? To become intelligent, to become wise, and to become whole. So this is the process back to wholeness, my friends. Gluing that pottery of yourself back together with gold, with love, with embracing your scars. So I hope you found a great value in today's message, and I hope you've enjoyed it. In today's painting, you can see a very interesting fragments of different colors. The whole story is written on our store, AttractPassion.com. If you will search for this painting, it's called I See You. You can read the whole story, so check it out. You can also buy copies of it, prints of it, print on canvas in different sizes, so check it out. Also, original is now available. And to anyone who would love to work with me one-on-one, you can book a calling in the link in the description. So check it out, it's all there. Until next time, one love.